Are we hyped for the War Within? Is it time? Should we be hyped? I think so. I think if you're not hyped right now, I mean, maybe you're a little bit dead inside. Who knows? Or maybe you're just scarred from previous WoW expansions. I actually think this one might be good. But let's see what Marcellian has to say.
Are we hyped about this cinematic?
Oh, yes.
Are we hyped about the game because of this cinematic? But it's okay, we enjoyed the cinematic, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
We enjoyed it, but
So there were some interesting takes on the cinematic. First of all, looking at it, I have to say my personal piece, I really liked it as somebody who got demoralized with the story that WoW has taken in the last couple of years, last couple of expansions. Dragonflight cinematic was okay, well, Shadowlands was meh, but this reminded me of setting up stakes and showing that, you know, the story is bigger than what we think it is, and there's more to it, and you can see the end of the story, which is Xal'atath, but she's painted in a way where she definitely feels out of reach, where it's gonna take a while to get there. This is a villain that obviously is not gonna be the first, you know, tier villain is Ansurek right there, tiny in the middle, but the actual villain of the expansion, we already know, like you said, in the past, we don't know what the villain of the expansion is anymore.
Well, I mean, this is what they do. So you would think it's Xal'atath.
Well, I mean, that's what we have to think. That's what they're selling.
That's the build-up. But how can you? This is like almost so. Up until this point, if they carry on building her up like this, it will almost feel like we're fighting something as powerful as
we're fighting Xal'atath, but not directly.
Yeah, she's not. I don't feel like she's powerful in that way. I feel like she's conniving. She knows, you know, how to get into people's heads. In terms of physical strength, we've never really tested her in that way yet. She seems to always be 2 steps ahead of us, so we can never really get a hold of her. So physical strength, we know that she's about to bring about a being with massive physical strength that can destroy a planet and a Void Lord and stuff like that. But in terms of her own physical strength, I'm not exactly sure that she's the strongest being out there. She's a manipulator. Yeah, exactly. What up, Rudo? So to say that we fear her physical strength or she's overpowered, I don't think that's the case yet. I just think she's really smart, and then not in a jailer way either. She's smart in a cool way. Like that we kind of know she's messing with us, but we can't stop it. She's always ahead of us. I think she's a great character so far, and she's hot, so that's a good thing too.
Now, I'm talking about the end of the expansion.
Jesus, her
so
brain.
At the end of the expansion, do you think Xal'atath, if we fight her at the end of the expansion, let's put this theory on, right? We fight her at the end of the expansion.
Okay.
Do we kill her? What happens to Midnight? Does Dimensions
Okay, so that's the thing, because that question is very loaded, and it builds the premise that she died or we fight her at the end of the expansion. I don't think so. I think Midnight is revolved around her, and most likely the only other character that we know is which is Dimensions or whatever higher void being that she serves.
Oh my god, how many higher beings do we have? Although I think Dimensions is the final boss. The CEO. That's where the train stops.
I don't know. Well, that's what I don't know if she answers.
Come on, man.
I don't know if she answers to like the CFO or whatever. That's like one level beneath. But what I mean,
there is the issue of power creep and stuff. That's kind of what he's hinting at. Is like how many higher beings are there? How much higher can we go? We're getting to Void Lords and Titans, which are kind of the end game of World of Warcraft. And I have wondered that, like, what happens after we defeat all these beings? What happens after the Void has been pushed back and the Titans have been killed off, or whatever it is? WoW 2? I don't know.
Lay waste to this realm.
Jam Dunks, thank you for the follow and welcome to our Scourge. But, you know, I've decided I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to enjoy the World Soul Saga for what it is and not worry about, you know, what's going to come after. But certainly we are approaching the point where we are in the end game of World of Warcraft. That's for sure.
Mean is that Midnight has to be centered around, like, she's definitely the coolest Void character that we have. They're not gonna off the coolest Void character that we have before the Void expansion.
I really like N'Zoth Whispers, man. Speaking about cool characters from the Void.
Well, Midnight is gonna be like a full Void expansion. We're not just gonna have Xal'atath there. And I don't know if she's going to...
N'Zoth was amazing. The way we killed him wasn't. I'll be honest. I'm still disappointed with that. I'm still hoping that the dagger, or he took the dagger from Xal'atath, and we did stab his carcass with it. So I'm hoping some of him is still in there, and that was his end game plan. Was like, I'll store some of myself in here before they kill me, kind of thing. But all in all, his story, his whispers, and everything else were great. He's my favorite old god. But the way we killed him with the power of friendship and the uniting with the push, the beam, and that was
the last. Well, that's the thing, because it depends on how they want.
You remember Yox'Ron, or you didn't?
That was amazing until we fight
Cataclysm.
In Wrath. we kill the Oxoran in Wrath.
Yeah, but the whole shtick. I mean, dude, Void has a lot of cool characters. I don't know if she's
No, but that's what we
character.
have now. What we have now
yeah,
to engage
because
with.
it's the
We don't have all. Well, theoretically, we don't have all.
we
gods.
dealt with the
Cyrodiil.
Void in BFA, sort of. That was the last remaining stand of the Void N'Zoth, okay? And now
Well, that's she's going behind N'Zoth's back to answer to the big boss, like, hey, dude, listen, he didn't let me do the project, but you know.
But yeah, what was that bargain they had? Do you imagine?
Right.
Between who? Between
Between
Zalta.
Zaltar and N'Zoth. Because they had a deal.
If I recall, N'Zoth freed her so that she gives him the dagger. Or
Yes,
frees up the
but-
dagger because the dagger is a conduit to manifest N'Zoth into our world, probably. I think that's what it was. But either way, what I meant to say is that this is a story set in 3 expansions. So even though we see Xal'atath as the big baddie, usually these types of stories are contained within their respective expansions, right? But now we know that's not the case. This is a 3 expansion story. So
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna fight Xal'atath at the end of the War Within. And I don't know if Dimensions is at the end of Midnight because we still have the Last Titan.
Well,
Are we gonna fight Titans in the last expansion? Is it just Titans, or is it going to be a duality fight between the Void and the Order of the Galaxy, where we fight either Titans or
I
the
think
Void?
Midnight is going to be Light versus Void, and I think the Last Titan will be like,
Us
Order,
versus-
Void, and Light, everything. Like
That would be because they could
Could
do it
be.
in any number of ways, and since we don't know, we cannot really say when we're gonna fight Xal'atath.
I believe Metzen did say that.
I think we will at some point fight her, foil her plan, whatever. She summons Demancius, we kill him. But I don't think we're gonna kill her. I think she just kind of does a runaway moment where she's like, "Oh shit, you outsmarted me, whatever." She shows like an angry side, and then she disappears. Because can we really kill her? They built her up so well. Are we gonna just kill her off and kill the Titans and kill the Void Lords? And no, here we are. Let's go back and fight dragons on our homeworld now and kill Onyxia again or something. I don't know. Can't imagine that. It really depends on what direction they're deciding to go after the whole saga's done. But I don't see us killing her, actually. I see us foiling her plan for sure. But killing her off might be a tough one.
This is Last Titan and the whole World Soul Saga. This is like the last big chapter of what we have.
Yeah, it
been
has to
working
close.
for.
It has to close off the
everything.
Titans, the
Everything.
Void, Iridikron.
Yeah.
Like we still don't have.
He said
Iridikron.
basically that everything that we've did in this game, lore-wise, has been building up to this moment, to this conclusion.
Yeah, it has to end with the Void and the Light and the Order.
Yeah.
This because these are primarily there's also the Fel because we have the Legion, but
We did that one.
yeah.
Sargeras is whatever, right? The demons are not dead. The Burning Legion is not fully destroyed because we cannot really kill. We didn't kill
Yeah.
all of the demons because you have to kill them on in the Twisting Nether, or we could
Yeah,
kill them with.
but
some.
you don't. Yeah, so when you kill a demon, it doesn't really
Yeah, I
die
heard
in our world. It just goes to the.
I heard somebody say like, "Oh, but we destroyed Argus. Doesn't that mean we can kill demons now and they don't come back?" No, that's not the case. The planet of Argus was just used as like an anchor into our realm, right? So like when you kill a demon, they still go to the Twisting Nether. That still exists, but now it just takes them way longer to come back because Argus was an anchor planet that allowed them to come back quicker. That was why Sargeras did what he did with it. So it'd be, it would regenerate even faster. Now it just takes them way longer to come back, and the Burning Legion still exists. They're still there. They just they don't really have a leader right now. At least that's what we think. There's been rumors out there that Sire Denathrius is going to take over the Burning Legion with the Dreadlords and use them in that way, but that has yet to be determined. And maybe the Dreadlords are the ultimate end villain after the World Soul Saga. That could be something that happens. Now that I think about it, we're not going to deal with them probably in this thing. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but if you
Twisting
kill
Their
it,
spawn
kill it in
timer
the
goes
Twisting
down, yeah.
Nether, I think it dies there. And if I recall, there was one way that if we kill them, they stay dead forever. They've retconned so much that
gotta
I just
kill 'em in
stopped
the
caring
Twisting
about the continuation of the story.
That's how they die
either
forever.
way. So because this is a 3 expansion type story, our normal ways of predicting how it will end will change. So I'm not gonna sell it off 100% and say exactly Xal'atath is gonna be the end. But this is how you build a proper villain. Like they could have done this with the legacy with Razgat, right? Because obviously what this does is builds up Ansurek as a unlikable character that we really want to defeat. And if once you
And we
play the
will.
expansion, and you will see once you get into well, I don't know about the story of the quest because I've skipped those, but I've played City of Threats, the dungeon, and we've went into.
I made jokes about how, like, when she kills her mother, it's like a total Arthas Menethil moment. Like, she's trying to be the next Lich King. It would be really funny if when we kill her, her mother comes back and tells her no queen rules forever, my daughter. That would be fantastic. That'd be full circle right there.
Arakara, but mostly City of Threads. There's a lot of lore in the actual dungeon that tells about Ansrek and the rebellion, the spiders that are against it. Because obviously there's going to be two factions. Because we know the queen was good, her daughter is not. So obviously there's two versions of Nerubians.
Yeah, there is a faction that we get reputation with out of the Nerubians. I forgot what they're exactly called. But yeah, they are most likely a rebel faction against the current Queen Ansarek.
But the question remains, are we hyped for the War Within? Are the people playing right now, the pre-patch, are they hyped for the War Within?
I don't know if they are.
It's truly, I believe this was a cool cinematic, and it kind of like really hit something that was missing, at least from Dragonflight moving forward in World of Warcraft. I don't think it's enough though. There's a lot of things technically that really put some brakes into our whole like speed towards the hype moment. And I really like going to the pulse of everything that's happening, you know, with, again, comments, forum posts, Reddits, and all of that. It doesn't feel that people are excited just yet. Now, once again, this is a very small majority.
Yeah. I'll be honest, they could have built more excitement with a better, pre-expansion event. This whole event's been okay. It's just been okay. Even though, like, it was broken in the beginning. That was one issue. That's a completely separate issue. But the other part of it is, even when it wasn't broken, at first it started out way too slow. It wasn't happening often enough, so you couldn't really do it that often. And then the second thing is, it's just so old. Like, I feel like they could have done something cooler, like, I don't know, like a Vault of Archimon kind of thing, or Arcanon, like something like that, where it was like a big event. Everyone comes down, and then it opens up this mini raid. Something cool like that would have been different and unique and more exciting than just another invasion-style event. An invasion-style event that's lesser than the Legion events, because let's be honest, the Legion invasions were way cooler. So I feel like there's other things they could have done, but it is what it is, I guess. It doesn't really say whether or not the expansion's going to be good or not.
Feel that people are excited just yet. Now, once again, this is a very small majority. I have to say, we cannot speak for like the big WoW crowd out there. Sure, the cinematic has done things to like hype up everything. I am expecting though something to happen at Gamescom this year to actually like pump it up into those places. Now, technically, we cannot be that hyped because we know how much shit they still have to fix with the dungeons. I don't even know what's happening in the raid because that testing has been stopped.
There's a lot of class tuning happening today, actually, during the reset. That's why it's a freaking 8-hour reset. There's a lot of class tuning happening. So, yeah, a lot of those changes still have to happen. So people might be waiting, holding back hype until then. I wonder what's going to happen with the sword. Azeroth's still bleeding out. Something. We know Anduin and the Thrall are looking at it in the cinematic. Something's going to happen with it. And we go in there early on, we go back into the heart of Azeroth, talk to Dwarfy Diamond Boy and chat with him a little bit about how he can't chat with Azeroth anymore. Like, a lot of things are going to happen. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the sword, but we're acknowledging it at least now.
Tuning, you played Delves. You can like share a little bit how that went. Sure, the open world and the quest lines and everything that is happening over there, that's pretty on par. That always is, but it tends to get consumed really fast generally. So when that gets consumed really fast, you get into the season of WoW, and if the first season of the War Within is not balanced properly, doesn't have the proper tuning for the classes, it didn't face the damage profiles of some of these dungeons. The raid is not properly tuned as well. Bugs in multiple places. This will hinder any drop of hype that
no doubt. Yeah, first impressions matter. It's big, no, for sure. And one expansion that I always use as an example of a bad first impression is BFA. BFA is a bad first impression. Somebody the other day commented on one of my YouTube videos saying, "Oh, dude said BFA was good. I'm unsubbing." They're like, no. If you look at BFA, you got to preface by saying, and I do this every time I say I thought BFA was a good expansion. You gotta put parentheses around it. It had a very bad start. Azerite armor was complete shit. It ruined everything for the beginning of the expansion and basically turned a lot of people off. They never got to experience Battle for Dazar lore. Some of the best raids I've seen in the game were in there. Some of the best storytelling. The cutscenes and cinematics were really, really good. Take the Sylvanas annoyingness out of it. Sourfang was a great character to follow around and do stuff with. They had some divergent quests where you got to pick, which side you wanted to be on. There was some really cool stuff in BFA. Even the two races they added, the hub cities were pretty nice. The aesthetics of the zones were nice. The music was good. BFA in general, I don't think was a bad expansion, guys. It just had one of the worst starts I've ever seen. WoD had a better start. WoD was great. WoD had a very good start. Nice questing, the Iron Horde, all that shit was fun. But BFA just had a horrible start, man. And it ruined everything else out the gate, too. Island Expeditions never got iterated on. What the hell was it? The war fronts never got iterated on. It was because they had to put all hands on deck to fix Azerite armor. Azerite armor destroyed that expansion. So it is what it is. Overall, was BFA a good expansion? No, it messed up pretty bad. But towards the end, I actually look back on it. I'm like, you know what? It wasn't bad. It had some good stuff in it.
Because again, guys,
Had worse
I remember
transmogs.
Legion playing in I think the last cycle of beta, and dude, everything was, apart from some abilities that are the artifact weapons that were not ever introduced back, that felt pretty good. I'm not going to compare
halls were
BFA
great, man.
beta
They should
because
bring
that was a
those
shit
back.
show. But once again, when you played those expansions in quote unquote testing phases, it felt a little bit better, and you had the confidence that on launch things are going to go pretty smoothly.
True.
Judging by the experience with the pre-patch, I hope they get their shit together, and hopefully we're gonna get the confidence that this expansion will basically add what Dragonflight was missing. Because if you think about it, it's not shaking up what Dragonflight was. It's actually adding on top of it, systems-wise, technicalities. Yeah, they're adding this atmosphere, context, and story in a better way. Hopefully, we
I
don't
think
know
that's probably.
Yeah, Dragonflight definitely, and a lot of people have said it before, felt kind of empty in terms of features, and that's because really it was a foundation rebuilding expansion. That's what it was supposed to be. And now the World Soul Saga is going to build on top of Dragonflight. Dragonflight's now the starting expansion for anyone who starts the game, if you didn't know that. So it is the foundation building expansion, and that's good. That it did its job. It did what it had to do. And now the War Within has to build on top of that, and it has to be a smooth launch. I agree with what he said. And maybe that early access period, to be honest, I'm going to have the early access, but we might just be paying to literally beta test the freaking launch because it could have issues. And maybe they're going to try to smooth out those issues in those 3 days before the actual launch happens. And I just hope and pray that it all goes smoothly, because I know some people are coming back, and they are going to be easily turned off if shit's just down the whole time.
The biggest takeaway from this cinematic when it
Can't
comes
afford
to
it for it to be bad.
should you be high for WoW? I mean, obviously, it might not do it for everybody the way that it does it for us. It's not the biggest thing, because I think one of the biggest things that we can take away from the cinematic is how World of Warcraft is portrayed. Since we know from past cinematics that WoW has changed over the years. It's not the game that most of us know, and I think we felt this the most in Dragonflight. Whenever it stopped feeling like WoW anymore, it felt, we never had those epic moments anymore. We never felt like, oh my god, we're fighting for like this cool thing. And it's starting to build up and shape up the way it is right now. And I think this cinematic definitely brings that back up. What do we have to compare it with? The legacy videos, all of that stuff. So that's what Dragonfly felt like it was missing, and this is adding like
everything in Dragonflight. Apart from a couple of moments, everything in Dragonflight was very soft and not exciting at all. So this is very early on to talk about, right? Because we're judging Dragonflight now after the fact. We've been through all the campaigns. We've been through all of the factions. We've seen the little short stories. We've seen the long stories. Yeah. It's after the fact. We don't really know what's in store for us in the War Within, apart from what's building up here.
Again, well, that's the thing.
No,
we can.
I will be honest though, in terms of cinematics for expansions, I think the War Within kind of had one of the shittiest ones. If I'm being honest, like I am excited for the War Within. I said a lot of good things about it, but that cinematic didn't really do it for me. It was just like, a dancing witch lady. We got a stony boy dwarf pulling a chain. He's pulling my chain, and then Xal'atath at the very end. Like, it was certainly not Wrath of the Lich King or Warlords of Draenor-esque. And say what you want about WoD, that was a good cinematic. But you can't judge an expansion based on a cinematic. I mean, you got to remember, Shadowlands cinematic wasn't too bad. But it didn't go too well. So we'll see. But in terms of what the cinematic gave us, it wasn't anything like, oh, this is the big bad. Xal'atath shows up at the end, but it still wasn't that impending doom that I felt from usual WoW cinematics.
Probably compare it to how 10.0 was whenever we knew that we were going to fight the Primalists, which were like, who?
I didn't care for that.
Yeah, exactly. And what I did get as well, who?
Yeah, who? And the little, T-Rex hands, what the fuck was that? No, what was cool about the 10.0 Dragonflight was the exploring the world part.
Feeling well, when we're coming from Shadowlands, it feels like we were claustrophobic.
Oh my god, I'm rediscovering World of Warcraft again with all of the planes and
Dragon
stuff. It was
Isle's
beautiful, right?
big improvement.
And I don't think the War Within will necessarily. Well, it has some beautiful places. I'm not saying it doesn't have, but if we already relived the experience of exploring and getting to see different biomes and stuff in Dragonflight, when you're going to do it again in the War Within, it's not going to feel as fresh because you're not coming off of a Shadowlands, all right? So this is why I think the War Within has to really put a lot of emphasis and value on context, characters, stories, immersion, all of that.
It's like you said, it's early.
It's early to
but
call.
I do feel like this is the step in a good direction, because this is not, if we need like a total of 10 cool things to happen, this is just one. We cannot judge it by one. We need like a couple of others to be added in. And I know that, I don't know, a lot of people don't vibe with how they're depicting these new characters. Everybody's like all slender, all pretty, all super shiny.
Yeah.
This is a different style of fantasy, but if you really think about it, it kind of matches the Void somehow. It matches the Ethereals, it matches the Void Elves.
Yeah.
So we can have
Makes
this.
more sense.
But I feel like what was missing
With the Ethereals, if we go back to Koresh at some point, it's such a fanboy moment. I'll be so damn excited. I really hope we make it happen. What if we get to see what the Ethereals looked like before they became these like mana, floating mana boys wrapped in bandages? That would be amazing. Oh, I hope, man.
in Dragonflight was that feeling of Warcraft,
the
feeling of Warcraft that we've seen in Warlords of Draenor with big orcs, in Legion with like fiery demons, in Mop with Lands versus Sword.
You see, like look at the difference here. Like he freaking Illidan filled him with freaking fel infused magic to the point where he exploded. Okay, he freaking exploded this orc with fel magic. Very different from the, we just got our powers back from a Mirrorcell feeling. Yeah, it does feel like a different game at times.
In Mop with Lands versus Horde, things like that, or even Alliance being portrayed as honorless and pristine and
but you had like big oppressive dude like the Mogu over there, and you had threatening factions like the insect people from there as well, plus the shot thing. So there were a lot of like, I remember in Mop when the first launch, it was kind of the same narrative as we had in Dragonflight, in the sense that this is the soft expansion, this is not Warcraft, this is kiddie stuff. But once we got once the patches came through, you realize this was like, oh my god,
actually thought out, written properly.
Yeah, but it was not the case with Dragonflight. This is what I'm saying. The big difference between Mop and Dragonflight, although perceptually they kind of started the same way, it's like soft lala, but Mop got into like big, epic moments.
If you really want to go there, Mop probably had a worse start in that respect, because what we could probably take from the Dragonflight cinematic is that we have dragons. The dragons are Warcraft.
Yeah, true.
Pandas are not, are not seen as were not seen as a Warcraft thing back then.
Yeah, true.
And you can look at these Nerubians, and the only really thing that I could say is that Nerubians for me were big, angry bugs. Were big spiders was an Uberrock.
Get the spray.
Were the the Nerubians that you used in Warcraft 3 from Undead and just like shoot web stuff. This is like a bunch of humanoids with pointy ears and slender feet. But that's the thing.
They don't. I agree with them on that. These Nerubians kind of look a little bit different than the typical badass spider boy Nerubians that I envision pushing back against the Scourge. I mean, that's what the Nerubians are known for. They were one of the hardest things for Arthas to take down. The Lich King had issues taking out the Nerubian empires because they were so strong, so resistant to what's it called? His necromantic magics and all that stuff. They were very much immune to that stuff. And just eventually he overwhelmed them with their own dead, right? Just raising them and coming back again. So it was, that's the way I always imagined the Nerubians. Now, are they being a bit, turning into a bit of a humanoid kind of, feminized a bit? Maybe, but we'll have to see how their story plays out. They still might turn out to be really cool in the end.
The cinematic doesn't do them justice, because you still have the big menacing Nerubians. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of them in the game. There's a lot of them in the dungeons.
They're
just not here for some reason in the cinematic, and maybe that's a shame, because they could have probably painted them there as well to kind of feel like the backbone of...
would have been really cool. Yeah, I agree if we saw some of the big boys sitting in the back there, because those guys still exist. The big like beetle-looking Nerubians. That would have been cool. Just add some kind of big boy power to the back of this army shot right here. It would have been nice.
The Nerubian army. So that's still a thing, and I want to bet that the next two cinematic things probably is one going to be about the Earthen, and the other one's probably going to be about the Arathi, because those are the other factions that we're going to meet in the Isles of Dorne. So that's going to be very important to build up, and I mean, it doesn't get a lot more Warcrafty than human paladins. Using light to burn darkness and burn the enemy. So that's different than, you know,
What is this? That's
Tuskar's
really cool
cooking
cinematic.
in the icicles. So
Well,
and-
listen. Like, have the light burn the bugs is an interesting metaphor. I
What
don't
the hell was that? That was a really cool cinematic. Damn, that paladin was going off. Holy crap.
think they're gonna focus on any of the factions. Well, Legacy's not sure, but what's probably gonna happen, because you have to think about this from a marketing business side as well. They want to hype up people for the game to get as many as they possibly can, right?
True.
This is like very important for them because you know it's a financial quarter and they have to get the dough, and that's the truth about it. So I put all of my money on a brand new cinematic that
at Gamescom.
yeah, a brand new cinematic, just to like have everybody pump the fuck out of their mind. And you gave me an idea. They could potentially in that cinematic show all of these races, you know, within their little, but you know, much more involved and stuff. And then when people will see the League of Arathor or whatever in a fully rendered cinematic, people are gonna flip the fuck out. I can guarantee you.
Remember the render cinematic that we had, what, 2 weeks ago? It wasn't really saying anything. It was the dwarf doing the blacksmith. That was a cool shot, but you don't really have context for it. We had the Rubians, which were cool shots, but you didn't have context. Now we have context with this cinematic. So that's what I want to say, is that the Earthen are really cool. People, and
Yes.
I was in your camp. Listen, you make fun of the dwarves because they're bejeweled, right? Because they have
Bejeweled?
little bedazzled.
I did, to be fair, I did customize an earthen, and they actually have a lot more to them than I was expecting initially. I'm like, what are these guys? Come on, we just got reskins of dwarves as a class, like as a race. Really, like that's not that exciting. Like these Hornier guys, they're really built on the Night Elf skeleton, but these guys are kind of cooler looking than and more customizable than the earthen. But when I made one, I realized like, yeah, there's actually a lot to these earthen guys. They're kind of cool. They have cool racials. They're not the most exciting race we've had out of the game, but they're not as bad as I initially thought they were.
They have little diamonds in their bodies, but Earthens are actually pretty cool and way more badass than I thought. And
Yeah,
the humans,
same.
the Arathi, are so fucking amazing. Like
they are.
What you want to be?
the Lothar chick. I
like her.
She's really cool. She's definitely
her.
going to be Anduin's anchor in the story, and the reason that's important is that's most likely going to be showed in a cinematic way. It was shown in the last cinematic, but you don't know that. That's the problem with how the cinematic launched, is because you don't know why is she there. Why does she have only one arm? Who are all of these?
That was really cool. When she turns the shield and that shit lights up. Yeah, this moment, that's really cool. The eyes glowing and shit, man. And the army behind her, when they get that shot, this was a really cool shot in the cinematic.
Dude, soldiers in the back. Why is she?
I think I just wish there was more, yeah, like
front,
this.
like, you don't know any-
right here. This is a freaking badass shot. This is freaking peak wow, like, holy crap, we're going to war. This is badass. The only thing I felt like about the cinematic, I kind of wish there was like some dialogue or something, like somebody talking in the back, something happening. Like, you know what was really cool about the Legion cinematic, right? It was Varian Wrynn monologuing the whole thing, talking about, you know, you feel it like he's looking at the picture of Anduin, he's talking about his son, talking about saving Azeroth, talking about his own internal fears about, you know, they're about to go to war with the Legion and all this shit. That was like, you know, raise the, you know, the hairs on your arm. You got goosebumps watching that one. This one, you're trying to like visually understand what's going on the whole time, but there's no context really. There's nobody voicing it over. You know that there's some threats, but you kind of gotta, there's nobody talking about it. I don't know. I feel like a voiceover would have helped the cinematic a lot.
Of that, and that was the problem with that, because she didn't sell the
Sasarathi.
character. You need a narrated type cinematic like this to have that explained, and I feel like that
narrated,
we're
yeah.
gonna get that.
Yeah. I think some narration would have helped a lot. Yeah, Josh. Jesus. Yeah, so I agreed with a lot of the stuff they had to say, actually. I think this is a pretty good video, and some, you know, at the end of the day, we all know one thing. Blizzard's got to get this right. They have to get this expansion right, and they're only going to have one chance. That initial launch and that first season has to go well. The balance has to be right. Everything has to go pretty well, because there's going to be people who come back, and they're very skeptical people. Whether it's coming back to the game at all, or coming back from Classic, coming back from another game mode. Maybe they played a little bit of Plunderstorm and they said, you know, I'll come back when the expansion launches. Like, there's people coming back. And if you want to get them in and get them hooked, you gotta start it off right. You gotta start it off right. So hopefully they do. My fingers are crossed. I want WoW to do well, and I hope the War Within is the beginning of a second chapter of WoW doing great things.